February 13th, and the all-important CPI announcement. I have all the details and exactly what you need to know right here in the video. Let's get right into it. I know in this video, I do want to discuss a very important announcement which will be coming out on the 13th or Tuesday, and what this means going forward, as we do need to watch this data very closely because it is a report that we do get out once per month, generally around the middle of the month, and this is coming up just on Tuesday. Now let's get into it and talk about the details of this report, what we can expect out of it, as well as why it is so important in about a month from right now, as well as there's another big announcement coming out then, and it's going to impact all of us with their decisions. Let's get into it and talk about the announcement on the 13th and what this means for us, the American people. Really fast before we do, thanks for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to do yourself a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button right down below the video. It is totally free to do so, and I'm here for you right by your side every single day, watching the details coming out, watching the headlines, the announcements, bills, packages, and proposals, anything else popping up right now you can possibly grab or take advantage of, or that may impact you, your money, your benefits, your lifestyle, your bank account, and of course anything that you can possibly grab and or take advantage of. Things are happening very fast right now, and it's a really busy time out there. So again, thanks for joining me. Again, make sure to do yourself a huge favor, subscribe down below if you haven't done so, and let's get into it and talk about the 13th, Tuesday, and what this means with this CPI announcement. All right, now this is a report, like I said, comes out once per month, and again, we need to watch the details of this, even though the weighting of this report is not nearly as important as it was over the last couple years here. It is still very important. Now, the CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. This is just a fancy way of saying the inflation report. Now, this is something we need to watch because do you think inflation has been elevated over the last couple years? We all know that, okay? This is not a trick question. We all know, yes, inflation has been brutal over the last couple years, siphoning every last penny out of our bank accounts, out of our wallets, and we have nothing left because they continue to just jack up prices on everything, and as a result of that, inflation continues to move higher, but to be fair, maybe it has slowed down over the last year to year and a half or so, according to what they continue to tell us. Now, the CPI releases are very important because it gives us a reading as to what is inflation doing, or at least what are they telling us inflation is doing, okay? There's a big difference between what is inflation really doing versus what is inflation doing based on what they're telling us, right? There's a big difference right there, believe it or not. There's a fine line, but that's what I want to talk about here in this video. So let's talk about the details, and again, I also do want to point out why this is going to be a big deal in about a month from right now when the Federal Reserve meets again for their next FOMC meeting. Now, they just met a few days ago on the 31st of January. They wrapped up their two-day FOMC meeting, and I have the details of that out in a separate video, but we want to continue watching this because we know the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates aggressively over the last couple of years here to bring this inflation down. Well, this inflation is still very hot. But anyway, so this report that we're going to be getting on Tuesday is for the CPI numbers for the month of January, okay? So that's how it always works. It's always a couple weeks delayed based on the end of the previous month, and then they'll deliver it usually in the middle of the following month, and this just happens to be the 13th, okay? Tuesday. So as a result of this, we're going to be getting the inflation data for January. Now, do we think that prices went up in January, stayed the same, or possibly went down in January? Well, kind of depends, right? January is kind of one of these interesting months, and the reason being is, well, we have all of this demand during November and December, right? When you have demand, what happens? Well, prices generally move up on a lot of different things. Depends on how much demand you have. Reason being, it's a simple supply and demand equation, right? When demand is high and supply is limited, well, guess what? Prices must go higher. People bid up the price. It's like an auction, right? Kind of the same thing, not really the same thing, but kind of the same thing, right? When there's high demand on something, it gets bid, goes higher and higher, prices must go up because supply is maybe finite, something like that, right? So kind of the situation between November and December is a lot of people are shopping, right? A lot of people are shopping for the holidays, buying a bunch of junk we don't need, and all kinds of stuff like this, and then giving it as gifts and pretending like it's a great thing, and then somebody never uses it, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? Seriously, right? The curse of the holidays sometimes, right? Anyway, holidays are fun, but seriously, it's just it's a buying frenzy for a lot of people. But now January rolls around. You think a lot of people are buying a bunch of stuff? Not really, right? Because as January rolls around, most people have already bought all their stuff because of the holidays and things like that and have been gifted a bunch of stuff. Now it's the return season. Return a bunch of stuff, right? So as a result of that, generally, inflation probably should come down a little bit in the month of January just because there's not all this demand like what we saw in the end of the year during the holiday time. Does that kind of make sense, right? So as a result of this, obviously this is just speculation at this time, but we will need to continue to see what this report comes out at. Now, here's why this report is so important. Over the last couple years here, we saw inflation top out at 9.1% in June of 2022. That's very, very high. Now, as of recently, yep, it has been coming down, but is still very elevated based on where the Federal Reserve actually wants inflation to be. They want it to be anywhere between about 2 to 2.5%. We're still running over that pace, pretty significantly on a percentage basis, right? We're not like significantly higher than that, but based on a percentage basis, we're still sitting, significantly above that. So the point is we need to continue watching this. Now, remember this much as well. This decision, or I shouldn't really say it's a decision, it's this report, the CPI report is also going to play a major role in what the Federal Reserve decides to do in their meeting in about a month from now in mid-March when they come out together with their next FOMC meeting to determine what they're going to do with interest rates going forward. So the more that inflation comes down, that's good, as in prices are not rising as rapidly, which does not necessarily mean that prices have come down at the stores. It does not mean that a gallon of milk that was $4.50, a week ago is going to be $3.12 today. That's not what that means. It simply means that prices are not rising as rapidly. Therefore, it gives the illusion that, whoa, inflation is going down. Well, not really. It's just not rising as rapidly as what it was over the last couple of years, if that makes sense, right? So anyway, it's still an important report, even though, the last year and a half or so, it has been very much influential because it's been predicating what the Federal Reserve is going to do with their interest rate policy. But at the end of the day, it's still an important report we want to continue to watch very closely. And remember, for those of you here in this community who are fixed income beneficiaries, like Social Security, retirement, SSDI, survivors, spousal, SSI, VA beneficiaries, there's a lot of people, well over 70 million people that receive these benefits. But here's another thing you want to take into consideration is remember, if inflation starts to tick up again, remember later on in the year, third quarter, July, August, and September, they'll be coming together yet again and determining how much the COLA is going to be for 2025. Now, I get it. That's a long ways away from now. That is a long, long ways away. So we don't need to sit here and talk about it here in this video. But I'm saying is if we start to see this inflation ticking up again, and if it gets real hot, kind of during summer, again, third quarter, July, August, and September, then we're going to see another very high COLA. But again, I don't want to sit here and promise anything. I have no clue what Congress is going to do, what inflation is going to do in the next couple months here, as we approach that. But I'm just saying, if we start to see inflation ticking up again, well, we might be taking another run for it, right? As in high inflation. So as a fixed income beneficiary, it's kind of like this double-edged approach where it's like, in some instances, you want low inflation because it's costing you less money at the store, but yet you kind of want high inflation at the same time because it means you also get a nice big boost to your benefits from a high COLA. So again, it's one of these situations where it's like, kind of be careful what you wish for, right? If you know what I mean. Anyway, this will be an important report. Of course, I will continue to watch it very closely as we do get the details that are released right away on Tuesday morning. I'll bring that information to you and I'll break it down in a separate video because, as I talked about before in other videos, we really need to dig into the report because they come out and tell us, oh no, look, inflation's going down. But yet when we dig into the prices and we look at what's actually happening, we continue to see food prices going up, shelter prices going up, healthcare costs going up, transportation going up, right? All the things that most people spend the bulk of their money on. Rents, healthcare, food. This is what most people spend most of their money on every single month, right? We don't need to buy airline tickets. So whatever airline tickets are doing, who cares? We probably don't need to buy them. In most cases, we don't need to. It is not a necessity. Food, shelter, things like that, necessity. Healthcare, necessity, right? Anyway, I'm here for it any way that I possibly can be. I want to break the details down for you in this announcement. Of course, stay tuned as I get more information on Tuesday. Of course, I'll bring that to you right away. Other than that, make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so. Also, right down below, make sure to share this video with your friends, family, social media so they can also stay tuned with what's going on. Go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel, including those that I have linked down below in the description. Some great content there as well. Otherwise, subscribe and enjoy your day. Have a good one. Hope this one helps you, and I'll catch you again later in the next